So Bitcoin was breaking down, huh?
Yep, breaking down.
So right off, with Ethereum too, like right off the trend line.
Yeah. And I said last week we had levels above that we had to get through. Oh, I've been saying that for a while, but just couldn't do it.
Oh boy, those wicks on the weekly.
There we go. We're live, fellas.
Do it.
All right. I stock twatted it out and I'm tweeting it now. So anyway, we can just jump right in. And I'm happy to be joined by my two comrades here.
It's a pleasure, always.
So somebody's got the that might be
I got my rally cap on.
Yeah, limit down, GP.
I had to find it, dust it off a little bit, and get it ready.
So, I mean, I think it's kind of I think GP and I were definitely more bullish than our trend loving counterpart Nick here. So no, I mean, we got to admit when we're wrong and things aren't playing out like we thought. And I think Nick, you did a great job of saying I don't have a trend and I don't want to trade it.
Yeah, for sure.
So we gotta pay our due respects. But we still have a few more days left in the trading month, as GP indicated before we started the session here. But at the same time, I mean, we didn't make new lows. So the bull in me feels, pretty good about that. But the charts on the technical aspects, a lot of things just look like doo-doo.
I think that's probably the most polite way to say it. They look pretty bad, right? And like I'm talking about, I think we'll have conversations about this quite often, which is indices versus stocks, right? So the indices are not bad actually. Like they don't look great, but they're nowhere close to what the actual damage is. And you see a lot of FinTwit icons talking about, oh, this looks okay, and you'll see us post that here and there too. But the reality is people's portfolios, if you didn't migrate into energy and dividend on a full scale basis, is getting punched in the face, right? Like that's
in the dick.
Like things are down 60% from like a month ago. So while the indices continue to hold up, and I think the general consensus is now the generals fall and the indices fall. So now it's a full scale Armageddon situation.
So win zero. I twatted that at you, I think yesterday, or it might have been Friday. Win zero.
I think you're probably looking at zero. There's like a couple more of these coming in this week, and then zero by Friday or Monday, Tuesday, somewhere around there, man. Like I don't think we make it out of February without hitting zero. So should put on your bulletproof vest, get ready for buy puts like 40-50% out of the money, and you're gonna get paid. That's actually been the interesting thing that I've been noticing probably for, I think it started last June or July, on a consistent OPEX basis. Calls have not been really closing in the money. So like I know we've been trending down for the last few months for sure, but if you look on it, like I do my analysis, it's like a lot more puts have been closing in the money for months and months and months. So people ask, how long can this continue? It can continue for a long time, right? So we just don't know the answers. I still find it really odd that we haven't broken January 24th lows, but that could happen Tuesday. It could have been, people were so hedged on a OPEX week that even if they wanted to break it, there was just too much to not be able to break it. So I think that's where we're at.
Nick.
I mean, in markets like this, like I really kind of only pay attention to kind of three things. Like I look at the indexes, I look at the most expensive stocks I have on my watch lists, and then I'm scanning for stocks like that are showing relative strength. Kind of what I think a lot of kind of Momo guys look at least in terms of like Market Smith. But if you look at like, I don't know, let's just say Google, Amazon, Tesla, Netflix, some of the bigger, like DXCM. What else is on that list? Melly, O'Reilly, Shop, like all like the expensive, like the actual market leaders kind of look like, they're what's going to lead the next, let's just say we do get the next leg down. Like that's what's going to lead us on this next leg down. And they're going to be the ones that fucking rip the hardest too, I think, once we buy, like, let's just say Tesla takes out that 800, that 850. Like just looking at a weekly chart, I mean, that thing could fall to 700 easy.
Oh, for sure.
6.5, 600. I don't know. I'm just kind of leaning in the direction that we're going to get one more leg down, and it's going to be, I don't know. Hopefully it's that capitulation that we're looking for. I mean, it's
that we've been waiting on, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So I don't know. As far as like the spiders, like I'm looking for the spiders 400, the Qs 300. I'm looking for gold to break higher.
You want to share, go through one of those charts while you're going over it, Nick?
Yeah, sure.
Because I think you're right on the Tesla front. Like, I mean, we wick load like at 790 or so a couple weeks back, and I think that was kind of the clutch your pearls action when that happened. But I still think that that's the level that can easily be breached. Like once it gets down past 790, just looks to me like it has 30, 40 more dollars to go, maybe.
I can't share my.
Oh no!
I know.
So like I think the Tesla stuff is kind of interesting, right? Because the setup was when it got to 900 and it was attempting to break out first. My thought process when that happened was that we'll get an overshoot and then we'll consolidate for a long time and then we'll break higher once we kind of go. And it was weird. It went from 900 to 1300 in like 10 straight trading days, completely breaking my thesis and almost having to say uncle. And now we're getting the consolidation, which I always thought was going to be between 780, 770 and 900. I thought we would spend like 3 or 4 months in that range after rejecting 900. The first breakout always kind of gets rejected. So technically, I think it's acting fairly strong compared to its other peers. Nothing like Apple. I think Apple's still the strongest in this bucket of stocks, but as long as it kind of remains above that basing level, I think is what was it, around like 780, somewhere around there. I think it's in a consolidation bucket.
Zach
It's gonna
wants
stay
to
there.
know,
And above 780 is great. You might wick low intraday, but as long as we kind of close above that range, I'm still in the camp that Tesla's pretty cheap. Not if you're listening to everyone right now about PEs and valuations. All these guys, like my question to, I think I asked a couple of my friends was, what happens if all these stocks, I'm not saying they are, I'm saying what happens if all these stocks now go back to maybe not all-time highs, but they double from here.
Yeah.
Where are your valuation conversations now? Like, where does that stuff go? I always wonder where those people go. They're all loud and proud right now. It's like, oh, look, valuation matters. I'm like, no, it's buying and selling. Right now, there's more people selling and there's not enough people buying. That's your market cap. That's how valuations and stuff, in my opinion, get formed. I don't know anyone who's like, ooh, Tesla's at $800 billion market cap. Let me sell this. It's too expensive.
Yeah, right.
Have you ever heard anyone say, ooh, the market cap's too much. It's too expensive. I must sell it. It's going to die.
No.
Right? I haven't. I've heard people saying, it needs to grow into its market cap, so I'm going to take some off. Maybe it comes down, stuff like that. But I've never really heard anyone saying, besides the people who are short, saying market caps is just too much. It's ridiculous. It's 100 PE or whatever they're doing.
Well, our friend Zach at Blackouts on Stock Twits wants to know: are we doomed or are we doomed?
Nah.
I've invested in like the industrial size, like the Vaseline, just in case. I hear it lasts for a really long time, so every 2 years I have to.
The 50-gallon drum. You
Yeah.
can get a 50-gallon drum off of Amazon.
Yeah, exactly. And every 2 years it comes out and then gets put away without being used. So I'm not really sure, but I'm ready. I've been ready for 15 years for the next crash.
Well, in fairness, I mean, we had the 2018, 2019 dip, right, when there was the taper tantrum, and then we had COVID, right, the March 2020. So I'm not saying this is the financial crisis crash bear market, but at the same time, right, like we have experienced some major moves from the highs to the downside in the past 3-4 years.
Oh yeah, and there's no doubt that this is rough. I like to make fun because it's either that or cry, right? So, but it's also kind of ridiculous. We haven't even, like, I know markets are forward looking, but we haven't even raised rates. Like, they haven't even confirmed that they're going to, or even taper. They are tapering, but they haven't. It's still quantitative easing. It's still just less, right? So we've front run that by what, a year and a half.
Yeah.
And from what I always told, where markets front run by about 6, I mean, they see things happening about 6 months before. So we've been on a downward spin since way before 6 months, I would say. Qs are exactly where they were in May, aren't they not?
Are they? I'm not looking at my chart.
Yeah, on a week.
Yeah. I mean, that was
February. Sorry, February.
Yeah, well, we're like at the April level.
February 8th, 2021 week, we hit a high of 336.62, and we were at 341. So we're like 1 or 2% from over a year.
Yeah,
we've gone sideways.
Well, my future predictor, which has been Bitcoin and the cryptos, I mean, it's basically showing us weakening since, obviously since Friday, but over the last 3 sessions. Today, Bitcoin's down over 4%. But yeah, I mean, we've kind of talked about it for the past several weeks. While I was bullish and thought the setup might last, I mean, there's still a lot of stuff above that it needed to get through, and just seems like it can't. So if my theory stands, workable, I think that, the futures are probably going to open here in the next, 40 minutes or so, probably lower. So we'll see how that goes. But right now, Bitcoin's surfing around the 38,000 level, and that's no bueno. The line of demarcation for me is like 40,500. But we never came back up to that weekly 21 EMA, and we failed the 9 all the way down basically. So I'm less rah this week and definitely more realistic on as we started this whole session, the technicals look like doo-doo.
I mean, I think it's important to note that, like, you know, not every day matters. And 2, time frame, you know, the time frame that a lot of us are on, or, you know, that, you know, whatever style or edge or whatever we got going on, like time frame. I mean, these charts that we're looking at, like, we got to remember that each one of these bars is a whole freaking week.
Oh, for sure.
You know, and I think we forget that when we see a pattern, you know, and then it starts to kind of, you know, do something else. I feel like we start to forget how long it actually took for this kind of stuff to develop. I mean, if you just look at like kind of a head and shoulders here, like on Bitcoin, you got a shoulder here, the head here, kind of a shoulder here. All it's really doing is kind of retesting this neckline on the head and shoulders right here. The measured move on a head and shoulders pattern is the neckline to the top of the head, which is right here, and then you just measure it down from the break. And so you actually have on the, we're talking on the weekly time frame here, you actually have a measured move down to 27,000,
right, the prior lows. Yeah,
it'd be kind of interesting. Like, let's just say, and so when these measured move hits, typically price will either pause or reverse at those points, just because a pattern's completing and you'll see people start to, you know, take profit or, you know, whatnot. But think about how bearish people are going to be when Bitcoin is right down here sitting on these lows. The measured move is right here, price spikes lows, everyone's going to be like, oh shit, it's going to fucking zero. I mean, I'm not saying that it, you know, whatever, that it will rally from here, but I mean, if there was going to be a spot where I wanted to maybe put some money to work, because this would kind of go in line with, you know, the rest, again, the indexes, like everything else. If
right, yeah, no, I
on
think what you're saying and what Zach brought up on our chat on YouTube is there's 2 types of corrections, right? Through time and price. And so far it seems like this could be a little bit of both, in my opinion.
For all of us,
we're definitely correcting in price, but we're not cascading down for it to be completed immediately, right? So it's dragging out a little longer than maybe some of us would like.
Yeah, and technically on the indices, maybe the small caps, but the Qs, the SPYs, none of them have breached 20% yet. We had until what was it, like COVID? We had a bunch of corrections. Oh no, 2018 was a big one, but we had a bunch of corrections before 2018 that never honestly got to 20%. They got to like 19.9 or something like that. So technically, the definition of a correction is it is a correction. It's not a bear market, right? And I see a lot of people out there calling this a bear market, and dude, there's a lot of stocks that are getting pummeled. So like,
there are a lot of stocks that are currently experiencing a bear market, right? Like you can't be 60, 70, 80% off your highs and not be in a bear market anymore when it's been down there for months, right? So while the indices may not be in those bear market principles, a lot of what's going on in the individual stocks can start dragging the indices that way.
Yep.
Yeah.
And like what I see a lot is there's a lot of bias on all the posts that I see from people calling it a bear market. We're going lower. So far, you're right. The price action has been great. But if you look at the cues on a monthly basis, Nick, if you want to change that to a monthly basis, it's an inside month.
Yep.
We have to break the prior pivot low for it to become a follow through, right? Otherwise, it's just an inside month. The inside month can push up. Inside month can push down.
Oh man, I'm
right?
still.
I'm not saying it's gonna push up or down, but we don't know here.
No.
And if you're looking on a weekly basis, the volume is waning.
In terms of it being an inside month, typically
inside the prior month's range. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Not an inside month definition, inside the prior month's range.
Right. So if we have a down wave month here and we've got this inside bar, as of right now, you've got to, technically speaking, you've got to be in the camp that we're just pausing for a continuation down in the direction of this down wave bar, correct? At least that's
no,
what I
look at
that's what I would
look at October 2020. Right there. You're right there. That 4 bars right there.
Oh, sure. Yep. So that was negated when the pivot, when this high got taken out.
Correct, but we're sitting right where that bottom is at that low, and everyone's calling for the end of the world.
Oh,
right. And
yeah, for sure.
That's what trying to. That's what I'm trying to show. Not you, Nick, but in general is like everyone's getting premature about calling for waves. Right. This happened in 2020. There was a lot of traders who came out and like, oh, we're going to 1600. Or we're going to 666, or we're going back to test 2008 lows. This stuff
people sound like idiots, dude. I don't know why you're wasting your breath talking about these people.
Well,
because a lot of people listen to them. So I think what I try to at least talk about is like wait for the break in the trend, right? The trend is down for sure, but we need a follow through pivot move down. We need to break the 24th highs, or it could just look like October.
I mean, yeah.
So right, what do we do after October 2020? We gained like another 30%.
Yeah. Damn.
So this is the TA.
That's all I'm trying. I guess that's all I'm trying to say is like, just pause on your predictions of where things are going until you actually have the data to prove it.
For sure.
So right? Obviously we look at charts, right? And we study them, and we want to make our most probable plays at zones that we've marked on our charts. But I think it's also important just to put one thing in perspective of, I think I tweeted this out Friday night, right? Like when a seller wants to get out, it doesn't matter what old support was. If it's a 200 moving average, if it's a trend line, for example, I was mentioning Kathy, right? She dumped 18 million's worth of shares of Palantir in 2 sessions, and she took a loss on those, right? And at the end of the day, when she wanted to get out, she's going to get out. So when you have, hundreds of millions or billions of dollars trying to get out of specific assets, it doesn't really matter where support is. Sellers are going to sell, and the best thing you can do is just get out of the way of that freight train until it rolls on by, right? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, they're not obeying whatever the 200 simple moving average is or whatever lines we mark on the chart. They're just trying to get the fuck out.
For sure.
Yeah, 100%. It's happened to almost every. Look at Tesla's my greatest example, is because it got destroyed for 8-9 months straight without flinching because people were worried that Elon was actually going to go to jail for all his SEC nonsense, right? There was no support. There was just selling because people didn't want to be involved with the potential fraud, right? Especially like institutionals that have compliance that say, no, we can't be invested in this, right? until it passes. So when you have selling, you just have selling. That's why I like things like people are like, oh, I'm going to hide in dividends, or I'm going to hide in gold. Then which is it? Is the market going to crash, or is the market just correcting? Because if the market's going to crash, your gold is not going to save you. Your dividends are not going to save you. They're going to sell everything. If you look at 2008, maybe a handful of charts went up, but there wasn't much. 2000, there wasn't much.
I mean, I don't think again, like the reason I'm in the one leg down camp is kind of to your point here. Like, we're correct. Like, I don't know. I'm sorry. Like, I guess I'm just not tuned in to who is calling for a crash, because it's like one more leg down would just kind of make sense in terms of like some of the bigger names rolling over.
I think it's just sentiment as a whole. I mean,
Yeah,
you know, you can see, I'm not going to name names, but you can see people who, you know, maybe had a bearish bias already, and now they're feeling it even further. And people who were either bullish or more neutral now, you know, after all this is now more positioned, or saying they're more positioned, or ready to just, you know, go all in puts. And, you know, again, we've talked about it, and I'm kind of joking, but not really. I mean, we tease about people going all in one way or another, but when you see the sentiment, and I read it again on Twitter and stock twits, it just seems like the bulls are so vastly outnumbered until we get one up day. Zach's wanting me to name names, so I'm not going to name names. You know, we see one up day, and yeah, I mean, for the bulls, I'm guilty of this. I like to take part in, you know, bearish misery, because they're already miserable. But at the end of the day, like, I feel like the sentiment as a whole has not gotten any better for the past month and a half. It's basically deteriorated, and we're still waiting for that moment where, I guess, you know, even me, the last bull turns bear, and, you know, I don't have that bone in me.
That's all we're waiting on. Stocks across the board are down 50, 70, like 80%. Like, and the indexes still are holding up reasonably well. Like, how much more of a correction do you really think we're going to get with stocks already being obliterated? Like, I just think that we're going to get one more capitulation leg down to kind of, to what you're saying, get the last few people to turn. And
yeah, I kind of feel like we take out
saying?
lows, and, you know, people are puking. Like, why did I even buy in? Right? Like, why did I buy the previous low? It's miserable. But where's a better place to be? And, you know, GP, you're bringing up value and dividends earlier, right? But I think the difference between what we have going on now than we had in the financial crisis, and even in the 2018-19 and 2020 corrections, was the inflation, right? Like, holding your money in cash is actually less money, right? Just by pure inflation. So what do you do other than try to hopefully collect, you know, a dividend while you wait? Hopefully it doesn't go down below 7% or whatever the next inflation number is going to be. So,
and Nick, did you give that? Did you provide that chart of used car prices? Because that is the market you want to be in right now.
Yeah.
You want 30-40% returns a month? You're doing it wrong.
Go buy some used cars and sell them.
Literally, you can sell
on
like
Craigslist and buy whatever junk car you can and take it in. Right. Exactly.
Yep. Fix it up a little bit, you know,
45% inflation on used cars.
Yeah. So, like, if you really want to put your money somewhere, you should be buying a 2003 Ford Taurus.
Oh,
and you'd be sitting pretty right now.
I always wanted kind of,
needs his whip. Don't try to sell his 2003 Taurus out from under him.
My bad, Nick. My bad.
Yeah, I'm kind of a truck guy though, so I don't know. We'll see. Well, I'll think about it.
Hey, GP, Zach wants to know if you got a chart of Melly.
Melly. No, I don't want to look at it. It's scary. Yeah, I can share it.
Zach also
I don't
said
like
you're
it.
just as likely to catch gold at a top. That trade should have already been made. Exactly, Zach. If you were going to already reposition or prepare yourself for that trade, you should have already done it.
And so like that's exactly Zach. I think I've been talking about gold since last year. I was like, it's going to 3,000 an ounce, but I don't think it's going to be in a pattern that everyone thinks it's going to be. You should have been I think I was bullish banks in October, bullish oil in December of 2020. And then everyone's getting on that bandwagon. And look at banks. Banks look awful. Are we looking at financials at all? Like it's not pretty out there, man. You want to see a chart of Melly? Okay, let me share my screen. I guess
that'd be great.
Hold on one second.
Can you see my Melly chart?
Yeah, we see.
Oh, well, yeah, bring it up. Okay, so Nick's got it up. There's no point of. I don't have anything special written on there. He's got some of the same lines I do. It broke that pivot right there. This pivot from September 2021, and so it's probably going lower, right? And it's a very low volume stock, so the moves are pretty not low volume, low float stock. I think they 1 to 2 million shares it trades in a day, so the moves tend to be a bit more exaggerated. And
Batman.
You have an outside bar, right? Like you have a range. It encompassed the entire 5 or 6 week range. I added a few on Friday, and then I went to look at the chart and I was like, oh, that was a bad idea. But it's only a couple, so I'm not gonna go bananas over it. I think you have everything seems to be correcting back to the 2020 pre-COVID highs. So this break of the pivot on a spike in volume, you can definitely see this going back to 600, potentially 500. So until you start to see a basing pattern, it's really you are touching a knife. You don't know, right? Look, man, I did not think ROKU would drop. What did it drop? 23%. Yeah, $32 on
ROKU drop. Did ROKU drop?
And then I just didn't think that. I knew it was gonna not break out, let's say. I just wasn't expecting that kind of a drop, right? Like, and after this long, but people are worried. So you have a liquidation type scenario, and all of these stocks have that potential at this point because they are breaking pivots, and the selling is unabashed. It's there. It's picking up, and you gotta be patient here. There's no, as people would say, no reason to be a hero. Hey, it could go up. I looked at a daily chart on Melly, so I was like, oh, it's okay. And then by the time I checked at the end of the day, it was already broken below pivot. I'm like, oh man. So it's probably one that I'll stop out on Tuesday if it gets really bad and wait for it to kind of base. But yeah, nothing's
so
really.
Do we want to talk about ROKU? I'm happy to give you some more ROKU insight. Or
yeah, sure, go ahead.
It seems like we can't go any of these sessions without me speaking on a former position of mine, which is ROKU. And I think this was Friday too. Somebody, last our friend LCC 007 and another user, I think, were talking about ROKU. And I chimed in about their comment was about cable providers, that cable is dead. And cable as we've known it, I think is definitely changed and is probably dead. But really, streaming services, cable providers are internet providers now. So to use all these streaming services and devices, we still got to pay the cable providers. The only difference is the cable providers aren't now providing us with the channels. They're providing us with the broadband, and we're paying each individual streamers for each channel that they're offering and all the content they're offering. And, we're going to see more streaming bundles. I think, you can be on Verizon or you can use T-Mobile, I think, and they're already bundling a bunch of this content with their provider. All right. Their bandwidth. So hardware, in my opinion, is what's really getting squeezed here. And I know Roku has built in some smart TVs already, but the bigger companies, like the Amazons and the Googles specifically, they are going to be able to outlast just a typical hardware company. Because would you rather be in the Roku ecosystem or the Google YouTube ecosystem, or would you Android ecosystem, or would you rather be in the Amazon ecosystem? Apple has a lot to catch up here, I think, just as far as what they're trying to do on TV. And I'm not even really sure that that's a major focus of theirs. They just don't want to be left out. But I think the competitive advantage again becomes back to convenience, which is what cable had provided us. They bundled all these channels and all these services together for us, and we hated them for it, right? Because they did gouge prices and they did have shitty service. But in the end, right, you're going to be able to go on YouTube or go on Amazon Prime Video, and you're going to be able to take all these channels and put them in your account and watch them right on that device. So while Roku is still a viable competitor in the space, do I want to go up against Amazon? Do I want to go up against Google? I don't know. And then you break out the ad serving, right, which is something like the Trade Desk and Roku and Magnite and other companies are doing. Well, Amazon and Google already had that built in, right? Like they can already handle all the ad serving. So they don't need to rely on these third parties. And in the end, I mean, we're just coming full circle to we're going to have all these services bundled with a very few competitors. So to me, it's just hilarious. I think we're coming back full circle to what cable providers were. We're just deciding to pay more to do it in the short term.
I think so. Yes, we are to a point, but now at least I watch what I want to watch. I'm not watching, like, I remember this conversation distinctly. It's like, oh, well, if you want that package, it includes the church channel. And I'm like,
right, of course.
I'm not Christian, so I really don't need the church channel. Can you just take that out and save me a few bucks? And he's like, no, it's part of a package, right? And I'm like, what else is included? And they give me like five other channels. I'm like, I don't watch any of those. Can we take them all out? So I do like that conversation, but we're moving away from like charts and stuff.
Yeah. No,
I do like that.
You just brought up Roku, so I had to go off on my tangent.
Did that answer Zach's question about Melly?
Yes, he said waiting on those 7,000s or 700. Sorry,
700. Yeah,
7,000.
Unfortunately, it's just
something. It'd be something.
So, do we want to talk about any
question for GP from Ranveer? Current thoughts on Netflix leading this bull market and how it looks now given recent pain?
Netflix looks, I can't believe these charts look this way.
I know. I look at you, I'm like, I think this is great because I don't know. I think it's great.
It's holding, right? So you have, I love these opposite candles that you get in stocks. Whenever you see them, they're setting up for another big move one way, right? So when you get these like hammer to inverted hammer moves, and they're long and they're wicky, I like seeing them, right? So what I do like about this is it held that 386 level like a champ. What is it, 5 straight weeks now? It spent 2 years or 3 years basing there. It broke below, scared everyone to bejesus, made everyone sell. Ackman came on and cried a little bit. and the stock has not rebroken the 386 level or 385 level. So I really like that it's holding up here. What I don't like is the market. So you also have a CEO who in my camp is one of the best CEOs out there. He stays out of the limelight. He just executes. He makes mistakes and corrects them. This is what I want to see from companies that I want to own. And he himself, like the first time in almost a decade, went out and bought. It's not a lot of money for him, so don't get me wrong, but he still went out and bought $20 million worth of Netflix or something like that. So I think you have inherent support that's key in here. So as long as it continues to hold here and base here above that 380, 86 level, because Netflix doesn't like holding to the penny levels. It trades, it's in ranges, but as long as it kind of holds this base on a week-to-week basis, even if it breaks 1 week and reclaims it by the following week, I think it's one that's positioned to be a winner when we start kind of trending up.
Not a TA question, but Zach says, why are you hating on the church channel?
Why? I just don't watch
Salvation is found inward.
it.
And then he said, probably.
That's why.
I didn't even know there was one. Probably terrible.
Yeah, I didn't know either, but they're still charging me for it. It's I like Netflix. We need the market to kind of act better for you to actually put any money to work. I was actually looking at June calls in this from a timing perspective, but I might be pushing out a little bit more because July's earnings. So at least capture 2 more earnings kind of moving forward. But the sell-off on Netflix off that earnings after already being down 200 points for being such a mature company moving to free cash flow, I think is kind of bananas. Yes, the PE is 36 or something like that. So you can argue it has room to go to 0 like every other PE will. But if Netflix is 0, we got a lot more problems in the world. I like it.
SSWAR is asking us, do we think Square Block SQ has bottomed? And thanks for looking at it. I haven't even looked at the chart, but based on what the market's doing, no, I don't think it has.
No, this is going to 70. Yeah, to me, it's going to, I would say anywhere between 71 and 83 is kind of where I have a range of where it's going. I would have, it was holding 3 weeks straight in a tight pattern and just broke down. So if you have a 3 weeks tight pattern after losing 180 points or 62% from the highs, and it breaks down, it's most likely going to break down.
It's not a good look.
The next leg down, I mean, you can just measure it out from there. And it puts us right at your, what'd you say, 70? I mean, it's just right there. That's where the next, like the next ABCD leg down would be right where you're talking about at 70. So
yeah, and that's close to where my parallel channel bottom would be too, is in that 70s range. But yeah, if it didn't hold up 100 off of that 3 weeks tight, it was going to have problems, and it is.
Yeah, and the volume is pretty high, right? So that's my thing, is that the volume is still pretty high here and is breaking down on that volume. So people are coming in, and I don't know if it's Roku that's inspired the selling by the end of the week, but if you looked at Square all day on Friday, well, the market almost went green for a short period of time before the dealer positioning took over at the end of the day. Square was barely even up like $1.50 off the bottoms or something like that. Because I was watching it, I'm like, why is this still so weak? And if you can't rally when the rest of the market is rallying, it's definitely signs that there's
let it go. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, hard. Hey Nick, I saw you were taking some requests on stock twits and Twitter.
Oh,
Did
yeah.
you have any specific ones that you wanted to look at?
Somebody had asked about Melly, so we already talked about Melly. We talked about Tesla. AUY was one someone had asked about. All the kind of the gold miners are looking ripe. I mean, if you have at least on the weekly,
Give me some shiny space rocks, please, Nick.
yeah, right. Shiny space rocks. I mean, you got that channel there on the weekly. I kind of feel like all these miners are looking to head back and test these kind of pivot highs on a lot of them. What we do from there is kind of to be determined, but
Yeah.
you zoom out even more and you have like this kind of big old cup handle pattern. I mean,
Well, and we've looked at gold the past few weeks, and I think we all agreed that we liked the setup, but I didn't take any. I don't know if you did, if you guys did, but sort of wedging in there on the GLD and the miners. They were looking good, pretty good for a move. So the move isn't done until it's hit some resistance, and it hasn't yet, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I'm probably a bitter gold bug because I bought leaps last year in gold based on the inflation that was going to come because I felt like I had seen what was going to happen, and I bought in the money calls on GLD, and the stock went nowhere. I mean, the gold ETF went nowhere for an entire year. So like my calls kind of just didn't like. I bought 170 calls for January 2022 when gold was at 167. And I think it closed on January at like 171. So like I'm probably just a bitter gold bug, but I think what catches out to me is I think I've talked about this on the last few, is the standard deviation moves on these stocks on a weekly, on a monthly basis. And if you're looking at gold, it's hitting the nosebleed sections on the standard deviation moves for like 2 to 3 standard deviations out from a weekly. 20-day means it's extended. So a pullback like, I know it's breaking out here, but I'd expect a pullback versus a bigger breakout, right? It can still hit 185 in the short term before it pulls back. 185 is like what, the all-time high-ish, somewhere around there.
I've revised my guesstimates.
Yeah. So like that's my concern on the gold, on oil, on look at the 10-year rates, TNX as well, right? That it hit that standard deviation and kind of faffed around and chopped for a bit and then came back down, yet tech still died. So that narrative is dead, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when I look at a lot of these stocks on a all of these names, gold, all these things on a standard deviation, like how far extended are you from the 20-day, and what's the likelihood of you now breaking out another 30 or 40% on top of this from here without some kind of base formation or some flag formation? I guess it's possible. That's my concern on these kind of charts because they're extended. And how long has inflation been running pretty high? What, about like 8 or 9 months?
Yep.
Right? It's been pretty high consistently. CPI numbers and PPI numbers have been going out higher and higher, and gold is just starting to break out.
All right, here's a
I
few.
think
Go ahead, Nick.
I'm gonna say I don't know. I think gold's in for a big year.
I just don't know when that
Initially-
year is.
Yeah, for sure.
The measured when you measure like a cup and handle pattern, kind of the same thing. You measure from the bottom of the cup up to the kind of the rim. And like, let's just say you want to call this a cup and handle. That would put GLD at $300.
Yeah, 3,000 an ounce, right? Like
Yeah.
that's my eventual goal for gold. I just don't know if it's in the pattern that everyone thinks it is. Right?
Oh, sure. Okay.
So that I guess that's what I'm cautious of here is when we're nearing, like what I've been looking at and reading is that a lot, like even the Fed is expecting inflation to start coming down a bit, right, in the next month or two. So like gold
You
breaking
just think
out
we're gonna break
here,
up higher and then kind of break back down.
yeah, like breaking out while
Turn more into
while inflation could potentially be in a topping out pattern, so to speak, is kind of weird to me, just like logically, but that's just me.
All right. So GP asks tulips or Ford Broncos charts, please.
Guarantee the Ford Bronco chart trumps the tulip
Are they
chart.
the hot thing right now?
So I went to check out. This is why I posted that is I went to check out a Ford Bronco 2022 at a dealership listed on the website for 39,000. You guys can't even guess what the price they were asking for. On the sticker was listed at 39 or
48,000.
Huh?
48.
No, you want to try, Nick? Guess.
38,000.
That's what it was listed at.
I know.
Hey.
So what? There's
107,000.
No shit.
What?
Two of them. I was like, how much is that one? He's like, oh, that one's 106. And
Holy cow.
I swear I just turned around and I didn't say a word and
Just
I just
walked
walked
off.
out.
So hey, I
Are
know
you
futures are getting ready to open here in just a minute, but we got a nice little pop in Bitcoin. So maybe I don't know. We'll see. We got 3 more minutes to see what's going to happen here. But
It's a decent volume. I don't think people are gonna. So if you're looking at Qs, it's not even our lowest close on a daily basis since January 24th, by the way. Even though other stocks are getting pummeled, like the lowest close since January 24th was actually the 27th, where we closed at 341.10.
hi, Rachel. Thanks for joining.
Hey, Rachel's
Yo,
on.
hi. Zach said Broncos are more interesting than tulips.
This is true.
And she said 85% of people or something paid over MSRP this year. Zach guessed 69. Line in the sand for the Qs, 0. That's the line. Is you know
300.
when it goes to like 1 penny, that's when you want to start buying.
So I'll answer the question with the question. Line in the sand for what? I think you need to be a bit more specific with that question, like line in the sand for the crash of the century, or just further downside.
And while we wait on that reply, that answer to your question, Nick, here's some of the ones that people sent you. And I say we at least tackle 2 of these. All right. I'm going to rattle them off. Tilray, SoFi, XBI, FTCH, Rocket, Clover, TROW, MNDT, Gilead, Regeneron.
Oh my God. Regeneron hands down.
All right. Let's look at Regeneron.
Regeneron looks pretty good.
Yeah.
This is a weekly.
Dude, on how pummeled the biotech ETFs are, what Regeneron is doing is like insanely impressive.
Yeah, it wants 1,000, but I mean, yeah, the market needs to let up first.
Yeah. We got down on futures.
Womp womp.
And we're going green.
Is the market open tomorrow?
Just
No.
futures. It's just for the pajama traders. There's nothing else. It's going to close.
Regeneron. I'm going to pull up my Regeneron. You don't have to. I'm not going to take over the sharing, but I'm going to look at my Regeneron chart.
I mean,
No. You
Oh.
you do you, baby boy.
Do we have any more questions? Bags?
Well, we do have one more to pick from. So you two chose Regeneron. I'm going to go Tilray.
Oh, boy. Wait, did I say that out loud?
Weed.
What was this anyway?
Tilray is weed.
Oh yeah.
Smoking doobies.
Dude, I'm gonna eat so many mushrooms on Tuesday. I'm going, it's 2:22, man. I'm going so I'm gonna go out and hike 20 miles and I'm gonna literally eat like an eighth of mushrooms. And it's gonna be a blizzard out. I'm literally gonna go for a blizzard hike, tripping balls. Maybe
So recreational drugs, this podcast does not condone them, but if that's your
sorry.
flavor of the week,
I'm-
Nick obviously
Yeah.
enjoys them. He's an adult. He can make those adult choices.
Yep. I hear they're legal in a couple of states.
They
too,
are.
so-
They are here in Colorado.
Tilray is kind of in this. I mean, it's got a nice orderly channel. It's just you're gonna want to wait until. I mean, if you're already in it, your stop's probably what at this point.
Zach
0.
saying microdose. Everybody microdose.
Nah, I'm going full sun. I just be waiting for this channel to get taken out. Like likely if it's gonna bottom, it's gonna look something kind of like this, where it's gonna, move. It's gonna break out of the channel, kind of move sideways a little bit, and then break higher. There's way better. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that there's better setups out there, but at least it's not my setup. Like
Exactly. That's
all I
been
can
my
say is,
thing
like,
with the MJ and other weed stocks too, is just in general.
Yeah.
There's just better setups. It doesn't mean that it can't run or get prepared to run. I mean, it's been beaten down, but as I've gone over, I like charts that are going from bottom left to top right. And Ronvier answered your question. His line in the sand on the Q's GP is to go to puts.
Oh, you already missed that boat. Now you're paying up for put, so they can still work, but the same risk reward isn't there. Like the VIX is at 28, isn't it, or something like that? What's it at? 27.75. You're paying an arm and a leg for puts at this point. It's just not, for me, this is not where I'm adding puts unless it's intraday moves that I'm trying to capture. It won't be like swinging puts. You're just ponying up too much premium. And if you do want to do it, you got to do put spreads. That's kind of how to mitigate that stuff for me.
Thank you for the compliment on my voice, Rachel.
Where is this chat room?
It's on YouTube. I sent you the link in the chat.
Oh, right here.
Yeah. Wow. You better turn the audio down or we're going to get some feedback.
Yep, that's why I didn't turn mine on. I just left it off.
Weed. That's what Zach said. Weed. It's amazing.
Yeah. So the
you
question
should tell
is,
us where you're going to go so we can find you if the blizzard gets bad. Yeah, tell us where you're going, Nick, just in case we need to call for a helicopter to come get you.
Nah, that'd be good. Just yeah.
All right, keep your iPhone and Apple Tag on you.
Yeah. So just a quick commentary on like Tilray. Like if you're holding and you're bag holding, I'm sorry, it's just a miserable stock, and the industry gets a pop every year or so where it goes bananas and then does nothing and just bleeds out. What's the investment thesis is what I would always ask in those. Like, what are you waiting for? Like, you're just hoping that it somehow at some point in time becomes like a Philip Morris and an Altria group, or that it's, I just don't know. And like, I'm not sure why it's it's even a consider that like the chart's just terrible.
Yeah.
Is it like the hopes to get back to 300? I doubt it ever sees that ever again.
Well,
Like, I
and
hope it does. I hope it goes to 3,000. I just don't. I don't know what they've been legalized. They've been all this stuff. Their earnings are pretty good, and they still can't get out of the hole. So I'm not sure what gets it out of the hole.
well, the hope is all for all states to decriminalize or go legal, right? Or federal law to do that.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just a hard sector right now until that happens. And then it's like gambling, right? There's going to be a lot of competition, spending a lot of money to acquire consumers. And, you know, it can see some pop, and I've traded MJ well in the past. But yeah, it's just hard to, say this is a place that I want to invest in. Trading's one thing, but investing is a whole nother ball of wax.
But if we go federal legalization on Mary Jane, wouldn't you want to find an American company? Isn't Tilray Canadian?
Yeah, and that a lot of the companies are Canadian.
Yeah, so like, wouldn't you want to focus on finding a domestic producer of this stuff? So like, just stuff to ask yourself.
Yeah.
On like, if you're trading it, fine, but like if it's a long-term investment, like, what's the purpose, right? And where are you trying to get to with it? Is it a spec position that you don't care about goes to zero or goes to 1 million? I don't know.
All fair questions. All fair questions.
So we're gonna really look at this miserable chart of Guild, Gilead.
I mean,
you want to look at a miserable one? Just pull up XBI.
No,
Since Hillary, man, it has not been the same. 2015.
I mean, I see a lot of XBI comments and the dream for it to become more than it has, but I can squint and I can see Batman.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
we're right at the.
We're back to below that 2015 peak.
How many lows do you have to take out to say we're at the bottom? That's the question that you should have asked earlier there. Ranveer, you should have just said, how many lows do we have to keep making for it to be the bottom?
On your time frame? Typically for me, the way I look at it is if you've wicked low, you bounce and you come back to take out that low. If that low breaks, it's probably a great trend trade down. If the low never breaks or gets close enough and then returns higher, I would say it's probably not going to break, right? So that's where that's just what I've been used to over the last decade plus is the first attempt at the break is usually not great. The second attempt is usually on the upside or the downside.
Right, but fresh lows, producing fresh lows, like, again, what we were talking about earlier in the conversation, the bottom's when the seller stops selling, and there's not really a key technical spot that we can say, all right, 125 looks good on XBI or whatever, you're looking at IBB right now. Anyway, it's hard for me to be willing to say there's a line in the sand or a bottom until you see some signs of wanting to turn up, right? New lows and new lows and new lows is not sign of a bottom.
So Bags, the question is, are you talking about, when you're talking about sellers, you're talking about kind of like liquidation mode, right? Like,
yeah.
You're not talking about general corrective action, because corrective action usually does find support when you're in liquidation mode.
Yeah, for sure. No, if what we thought was the bottom, 3 weeks ago, still could be, right? Because we haven't made fresh lows and new lows and new lows. Now those actions could happen, but at the same time, it's not like some of these other charts that we've looked at that is nothing but continual selling, just down and down and down and down and down.
Yep. Yeah, and I think a lot of people, if you're on like Twitter and stuff like that, talk about the strat, right? I don't really follow the strat that much, but it's kind of in my kind of wheelhouse or views on things is like wait for them to break and then take the trend down, right?
Yep.
So that's kind of how when you break a pivot low, then you take the trade, and it's that sounds simple, but that is just kind of how
Right.
I've
And
seen
you can
it.
trade that, right? You can trade that to the downside. You don't trade that as buying calls or, getting leveraged of any sort of way long,
Yep.
until you see that, everybody wants to pick the bottom, but it's very difficult to pick the bottom. You want to see that you're making highs instead of lows ultimately.
What's the Confucius saying on picking bottoms?
Something about itchy butt, wake up with a sticky finger.
Oh man.
Go to bed with itchy butt, wake up with sticky finger. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. It's I think traditional TA is still very relevant. If it is liquidation, it won't matter. What traditional TA is, it'll just be selling and selling and selling. People are trying to get out for any amount that they can.
This has been fun, guys. I've liked the little live that we did on YouTube. Just to show people that we're kind of what we are and who we are when we record these. We're not editing much except maybe some things out of the corner of screen shares, but otherwise we kind of let it flow. And I appreciate everybody for joining. If there's any more questions, I still got a few minutes, but I want to
Yeah, I'm still on too. If any,
yeah, I just want to be respectful to Nick and GP. We normally wrap these up about an hour and 15. So
No, I'm free.
cool, man. Well, I mean, I'm cool to keep going for a little while longer. I want to help Mrs. Bags with the babies at some point. But no, we're good for a little bit.
Yeah, I got about a few minutes. I gotta get ready for dinner. It's about 6:30 here, 6:15.
Anybody in the chat want to see something specific? It looks like Rachel and Zach and Ron Beer are our most chatty. But we've got this list that people sent to you too there, Nick, that we can go over a few more. But
yeah, yeah.
I just got the crypto screen up, seeing what it's doing while we're watching the futures too. So looks, I don't know. We'll see how futures go. We're obviously almost 1% down on the on the composite, the NASDAQ. All of them opened with a gap down.
The weird thing about the composite is the Qs don't actually represent this, but since basically what's his name, JPOW kind of said
Daddy
we're gonna go taper really hard that November 22nd, we've been putting in lower highs. And what I found odd is one of the first times since all this happened on February 10th, we actually ended up, it wicked off badly. So don't get me wrong, but we actually put in a higher high on the NASDAQ composite, not the Qs, not the NDX, but on the actual composite. So I always find that interesting that there was strength enough to push up to make a new high, but not to hold it.
Nick, I see you're pulling up Moderna there for maybe SWAR.
Yeah, I can pull up. Let me do the AVAX one real quick. What is this, like a crypto
Yeah,
thing?
Avalanche. And Rachel, to ask your question about crypto that you missed the beginning. Right now, my position is crypto still leading us up, and right now leading us down. So that's why I was kind of excited with 3 minutes to go. Saw a little pump in Bitcoin and a few of the other coins, but just to see the futures gap down. It's still early, but I
There's
still
a decent
think
volume on that pump too.
it was, yeah. And I don't leave volume on, but I was watching it just for UGP. But yeah, I still believe that we have crypto leading the market to a large sense.
It's the biggest risk on market to me.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, you got a nice trend line here. You're kind of at the I don't know,
50.
line in the sand, I guess they would say. You're at from high to lows, you're at that 50% retracement right here. That's also kind of in line with, I think, whatever moving average this is, the 10-week maybe. If that gets taken out, it's likely going back after the lows, in my opinion. Well, I don't know. Where are you long from?
170.
Yeah, I mean, anyways, we can go back to mRNA. It looks like
Rachel,
shit.
I think crypto, maybe not the dog wagging the tail. I think GP nailed it right. It's more of risk on versus risk off appetite. When risk is on, we should see crypto pumping. When risk is off, we should see crypto falling, and the market similarly.
Yeah, and I think I've this may be anecdotal, but I found that if the market closes weak, we definitely experience weakness from Friday to Saturday, and then Sunday you kind of get the where are we going next kind of move, right? Whether it's going to go higher or lower is kind of what Sunday tends to kind of depict for us.
We have one more from
people-
Ranveer on Roblox. If you want to pull up Roblox, yeah, you got it, Nick. Good job.
Buy the Pelosi calls.
I mean, it's kind of it's really in no man's land.
Her Salesforce is underwater. Bigly.
Pelosi always wins, so just that's the general mantra.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I smell a little your facetiousness there.
So maybe she's down now, but come January 2023, her 100 Roblox calls will probably be in the 200 range, right? So she rarely loses. Otherwise, she would have already sold. Sorry, her husband, not her. But the chart looks like garbage. You know what chart looks really good? The
Please tell
AD&T
us.
chart.
AT&T?
AD&T.
Oh,
AD&T.
And
AD&T.
yeah, it does.
This looks like it's going to push higher if the market can start getting a better footing. I have no clue what they do, by the way. I was going through 13Fs and this stock came up. I love when I start going through like the 13Fs and I go look at the charts and it's like, oh, look at that. It's been a tight range and supported in a base for a really long
Hey, Nick,
time.
would you consider that a 3-week tight there?
I almost asked Rachel if she had balls, but I don't know if that was appropriate. Oh shit, we're recording. Dang it.
Yes, Nick, we're live and we're recording.
Oops.
Would you consider AD&T a 3-week tight?
No.
No, because
It is not.
this past week's bar.
Yeah, so the close would have had to
Yeah.
been right here for it to be
Yeah.
a 3-week tight close.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But it is a hot dog on the monthly.
A hot dog.
That's when it's like the
Shout out
big.
to
Oh, yep.
Common King.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You got the green buns on the right and left, and you got the middle red hot dog.
I was gonna say DLTR is still looking pretty good to me, at least on the weekly or weekly. Daily, it had a nice Friday. But I mean, everyone's gonna be, if we roll over, everyone's gonna be poor soon. Everyone's gonna be shopping at the Dollar Tree, the dollar store, Walmart.
They're like the $1.50 store now by inflation.
Walmart, I mean, God, there's such a big range too.
Walmart just refuses to do anything but that.
Yeah, it's done nothing for more than a year now, really. Ranveer, what does the high volume putting in new lows signify, if anything?
Not sure if I understand.
Say that again?
Can you clarify that again, Ranveer, in the chat? What does the high volume putting in new lows signify, if anything?
Oh, that price is going after that pivot with vengeance. So like if volume's coming in as price is coming into a pivot, I'm thinking that it's gonna break that pivot. If volume is starting to come off as it comes into that pivot, especially if it's lower volume than, like let's say Walmart on this chart, for instance, like right here, like let's say price was coming into this 125, and volume was light compared to back here, I'd be more inclined, if I was looking to really get involved with Walmart, I'd be looking more for a bounce here than it to continue. The high volume highs and lows generally are pivots that like to be tested.
Yep.
When you have a high volume, higher low, that means that there was a lot of buying and selling took place. Yeah, I don't know if that answered anybody's question.
I think
Or
I think it depends on the candle. So for me, right, like if you can bring up square again.
Yeah.
Nick, do you mind changing to the candle versus the monkey bars? Right. So if you're the way I'd be looking at this is like if the pivot here is clear, right? If you go back to October 2018, it's 100, and then it rejected it. This was after a massive move from $9 to 100. It 10x, it moved, it consolidated, it did its thing. It's the normal corrective pattern after a big move, right? The conversation is like the first VCs basically, if the IPO starts to execute and does well, the first VCs start to cash out on the first kind of big leg up, the 8 to 10x. And then as the VCs start to cash out, other hedge funds, institutions start to recognize whether this is a business that they want to continue because they can see it. So it's like a switching of investors. And that's why you have that big sell-off and then a consolidation range for a couple of years, and then the next leg higher, right? And then you have those people kind of liquidating out. That's what we have here, where it's kind of liquidating out. I think in Elliott wave theory, it's like referred to as wave 5, and they're coming back into this kind of pivot of the October 2018 highs here. And you have a 3-week type pattern and you're breaking down here, but it's on the least amount of volume while we're in this range. So the candle is terrible here because it literally closed at the bottom and the volume didn't go up. So I'd say this could potentially be one that I'd be watching for a false breakout, especially with earnings coming up. This breakdown.
I was gonna interject and say, okay, so you have this 3-week, let's just say we have this 3-week tight pattern here. You could be, to your point, if the I don't know, definition or psychology behind a 3-week tight is that there was a lot of institutional buyers stepping in to support price at any given price. So like, let's just say here, $110. You have that level to play. And so like, if you really wanted to be like, I don't know, mechanical about it, like you said, you have the false breakdown here. I'd almost be looking to get back. Like if square was what I wanted to be in for whatever reason, I'd be looking to get long back through 100 here, light, I want to see price rally to the kind of the top of this 3-week tight pivot, like 130, and over 130 is where I'd be looking to like get more involved. It's kind of a confirmation.
Yep, same. Like that's the same thing. Like you'd want to see the reversal happen at 100 and then not reverse the reversal, right?
Yeah.
And then you want to see follow through, and that follow through is breaking the range of the 3-week tight. So 100%, Nick, in the same kind of in the same kind of camp for our trade. But I think
Process,
for me as an investment, it's something that I'll add in blocks, right? Like at 100, it'll be a quarter, and then at 70, it might be another quarter. And if it goes down to like 40 or 50, or there'll be a point in time where I'll probably add more than the quarter because it's just insanely cheap or whatnot. But what the answer of the volume question is, like, you had this big doji candle on massive volume, and the next one is a follow through to the downside, right? Look at that volume on that doji candle, right? Like, even though it closed below the prior week's close, it's an indecision, and you've had 3 indecision candles, and you had a decision to go down. So what you want to see here is the follow through. If we don't get follow through, then this is probably closer to the bottom than it is the top, right? So that's what I'd be looking for, because I would have liked to seen all those people that bought the week before get wiped completely out, Nick. This is the way I would have seen it, right? So I would have seen, when you break that 3-week tight bottom down, I would have expected to see volume go bananas. All those people who bought in the last 3 weeks, they're like, nope, I'm out. This is done. Liquidate me, get out, stop me out. I will wait. And we didn't see that in volume. So that's the way I look at that from a volume perspective.
All right, guys, last one. Zach wants to know about ZLAB, ZLAB.
I don't think I've ever looked at this chart.
I have never looked at this chart, and he says he's got a 49 average, which, you know.
Are you just boasting, Zach? Is that what you're doing?
He's got a 49er. It's a 59er right now. So he did well.
He did well. He did well. What gets you long this stock?
Does he already have a position in it?
Yeah, he said he's long from 49.
Oh, long from 49.
Where was our heads up? Jesus.
Yeah, I know. What the hell, Zach?
That was a nice catch. Or was he long from back over here?
I have no idea.
Yeah. I mean, if he's long from back over here, I'm like, I don't know, man.
You guys need to take this up with Zach, okay? I'm just passing along the information.
It looks good, though. It looks good. It's holding the pivot and pushing higher.
Well, it
needs to take out 73 with authority.
9 and 21 on the weekly. It retook the 9. So yeah, I mean, I think it looks very constructive from my perspective.
And if it takes out that 72 kind of base range and 72 to 74, it should
see 100.
It should continue to push higher.
It's going to
see if it rejects that, you could see a new pivot low.
We also have the weekly 21 EMA right there at 74 too. So I would expect a battleground right there, Zach, just looking at the chart. But yeah, if you can get through that mid 70 zone, I think you got $100 stock on your hand, and then you've got a big old 100 handle in your hand.
Yeah, I'll post a more detailed chart, Zach, on either StockTwits or somewhere. But I'll tag you. Blackouts, right?
Yep, blackouts. Yep. Ranveer says ZLab is a humor favorite too, for what it's worth. Yeah, shout out to humor. I like humor. Humor's solid.
Yeah. All right, guys, it's 6:30. So
all right, guys. Thank you for your time. Thanks for everybody for jumping in and taking part in this live. Can't promise that we'll do all these live on YouTube, but this was fun. This was good. So
I might do a live Twitter Spaces tripping balls on the trail next Tuesday.
Yes. And thanks to all of our future sponsors who pay no attention to Nick's extracurricular activities.
Oh, shoot. Sorry.
It was all hypotheticals, Nick, right? Just
Yeah.
hypotheticals.
Totally.
Unless you're a weed or shrooms, then whatever. That's what we want.
Or Pondo, right? Because he's in Portland,
Yeah.
where it's all legal to do this stuff.
All right, gang. Thanks for joining. Thanks for hopping on, Nick. GP. Blessings to you. Thank you.